Good morning. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh my God, today is going to be so good. And I'm starting off with a coffee break show. But first, we have to listen to the music. I'll see you guys in a second. Good morning. You are on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. I'm Vickie Helm, and today I'm so excited for this conversation. I've been talking with Eric just before we got on the show. I am so excited to have this conversation. Today, we have Eric Samdahl, and this is going to be a powerful conversation. If you want to get a jump on business in 2022, or you want to end strong, we know that we have all kinds of things and obstacles and unknowns and everything. And we are going to go talk through it today because Eric he's got a vast array of knowledge. And I just want to tell you this. We are going to be talking about not just about business acumen, not just about business skills, but how to use your gut in business, how to make decisions from your gut today. He is going to be talking about his new book that is going to be coming out shortly. And what it is that we're going to do as we go into 2020 and out strong for this year, 2022. Eric, thank you for being on the Coffee Break Show. So excited that you're here today.
Thanks, Vickie. It's great to be here. Oh my gosh, this is going to be fun, you guys.
Yeah,
hold on to your panties. Here we go.
It is. I just want to say something. Do me a favor. I see you guys popping on. Put your name down below. Become part of the conversation right now. And first off, I just want to say, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Eric. He is a mergers and acquisitions specialist. The guy is absolutely done some of the bigger deals for big Fortune 500 companies, all of these kinds of things. This guy is absolutely an expert in what he's doing. I see you guys popping on. Good morning and happy Thursday. Nice to see you. Grab your cup of coffee. My better half is here. Good morning and welcome, Eric. Nice to see you here. And so as you're starting to pop on, you can ask. I have no agenda today. You guys, we're going to talk about some of the basics that you need to know about the future of business, what you're going to be looking out for. But first, Eric, can we just I want to talk about the making decisions from your gut. I just want to talk about your book or what you're about and why. Why did you get to that versus all the data that we're told to use and evaluate with? Can you tell us just a little bit about that as well?
Sure, Vickie. Thanks so much. Great question. Great lead in. One of the things that I've noticed as I've been, working with entrepreneurs and businesses is we've come to rely so much on data when really there's enough in our own body if we just listen to it through intuition and I call it gut, to be able to make faster decisions than you could waiting for data. And I'll give you an example here. I was working with one company, and this is kind of where this all kind of like started to come to fruition. Was around, he was looking at his supply chain, and I was talking to his number two, and I said, "Hey, look, have you guys started to pull back on your ordering? Because right now they've got a full warehouse. They're trying to get stuff in. They get it in from overseas, so it's 90 to 120 days just as a normal course of business." And one of the things that she said is like, "No, we haven't." I said, "Well, and this is where this company really likes to dive into the data and use the data. So sales are going like this. Sales are going like this. They keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. But looking at the economy and what's happening and how people are getting back and doing things, their sales are going to start to go like this. However, the data shows that they're going like this. So if you continue on with that and you continue to purchase to make that sale number keep going up, guess what? You're going to have more inventory than you need." These types of things. She's like, "Yeah, absolutely. I need to start doing that." But this is a perfect example of how to, if you're living in the data, you're not necessarily seeing that there's going to be a pullback or a change in your sales number, but just, intuition says you can only go this high for so long. The economy everything we do, business itself, eventually it goes back. And so
Yes.
if you just look at some stuff around you as opposed to just looking at the pure data,
I think
then
what
that's
you
one.
just said is so important, Eric, because one of the things we're taught, and I have a degree in accounting,
Mhm,
and it is numbers, numbers, data, data, data,
mhm,
number, numbers. And that's how you should watch your business.
mhm,
One of the interesting things here is that when you get to the point where you realize business is just a series of ups and downs and ups
mhm.
and downs and ups and downs, calling out the downs can save you on that, because right now there is that point where everybody's like, get your inventory, thicken it up, thicken it up. That may not be the right thing to do.
Mhm,
What you pay for it, cost of goods right now and
mhm,
cost of goods later, can be vastly different.
mhm,
And it's the fundamentals. I want to call it the rudiments of business,
mhm,
the rudiments of business that most people don't pay attention to.
mhm,
So let me ask you something outside of your gut and saying, okay, I know that this is going to go down. Let's say your gut is saying something and your mind is like, check the data first.
mhm.
What are three things every entrepreneur must know about trusting their gut in the decision process, because we're taught to trust the data? I mean, I think
Mhm.
what you're saying is so important, and it's kind of hard to learn, right?
It is and it isn't. So you've got to understand that intuition is a product of learning and experience. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
had both of those, it's going to be easier for make those decisions. And what happens in a lot of cases is people talk themselves out of it. They know that it's right,
Yes.
but they talk themselves out of it because, well, it can't be right. Oh, this
Mm-hmm.
can't be the case. When the reality of the issue it is. And what's really important that I've discovered, and with all the people that I've helped, I'm like, look, here's the deal with intuition. You've got to give your brain space to work. We're thrown with
Ooh.
so many things out, social media, kids, life,
Yeah.
all that stuff. We're just consuming data all the time, consuming things, seeing things. We've got to slow down just a little bit. And it's not much, just a half a tick, but your brain's got to have that space to work. And so one of the things I do personally is meditate. And that helps me a lot because I get
Oh,
in
yeah.
touch with that inner voice, and it leads me down, some amazing roads that you might not even have seen if you're, attached to the data, or if you're going a certain way. So it's really around being able to get into that thing and just let it be there. If everybody's got it, there's nobody that doesn't have it. It's just a matter of getting into it. So,
Thank you for that. That is this is so key. First off, there are so many business execs and owners that are meditators.
mhm,
And to me, that spirituality and business go together. They're
mhm,
one thing. That's just me. But what I find interesting that you just said is, it's like once you get to the point where you understand how to tap into that inner genius, maybe that inner intuition, and let that lead the way, you get to a point where you have a gut check. And I want to say, Eric, this reminds me, my business partner, Tracy Wilson, and we had a brand new book, and we wrote it in 2020, and we're getting ready to launch it in 2021. Of course, everything went into lockdown and
mhm,
everything started collapsing. And we were like, do we hold back? Do we stop doing this? Do we stop? And our brain was like, don't do it. Don't do it. But our gut was saying, do it. Just do it. Just do it. So we did. We released the book in the middle of the pandemic when everything was locked down, and it went to number one just like that. And it's that key of following
mhm.
that kind of intuition. So let me ask you, what are three keys that we can use to following that gut check? Because I know for myself, Eric, the one thing is this is what happens for me. My gut will tell me an intuition, and my brain will come on right then, and it'll go, but wait a minute, but. How do you move past that? How do you check it? What are three keys to being able to add intuition into your business decisions as well?
So really, Vickie, it's very much around just being open to it. Number one, you have to be open to hearing this.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you've got to give it space. Okay. Number one, you got to recognize that it's there, which you did. You gave it space. And then you got to just lean into it and let you know that it's okay. Just go for it.
Yeah, that's what happened with us. We're just like, okay, let's just go for it. Because sometimes you have to take a risk. Sometimes you have to take kind of an educated risk. You need to
Right.
be able to say, okay, this is a healthy risk. We can mitigate it if something goes south. What do we need to do now?
Right.
And right now, because business is so there's a lot of uncertainty to it. We know that we don't know what's going to be happening with all of the shipping issues, container issues, production issues, and we're trying to run our business forward. And a lot of it is got to be, to me, I would say, for me, we're running very lean. We are very lean right now. And we make every decision not just based on the data that's coming, but a future guess, like a futuristic, sense of what is our gut telling us to look out for in the future. Do you understand what I'm saying? That part of that?
Absolutely. And I'll share a story with you that I shared with when I was speaking in Cancun at a mastermind event. And it was, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the company. I will at the end, but there was a durable goods manufacturer that was basically running out of money. Their runway was done essentially. The CFO told the founder, I'm like, look, hey, we have no money, and on top of that, morale's horrible. Nobody wants to work. Everybody's not putting in their a great effort. He's like, we've got to figure out something to do. And so what happened is the founder took a couple of days. Came back to the CFO. He's like, here's what we're going to do. And he told him, he's like, here, I want to pay our people 3 times what they're making now. The CFO lost his ever loving poop.
Wow.
He said, this is crazy. And he's like, and the media got wind of it, started, chastising the founder in the media, like, you're crazy to do this. And what the founder ended up doing, since this was a durable goods manufacturer, he ended up making all of his employees customers of the company.
Wow.
Okay. Also, on top of that, morale turned around because it felt like it was taking care of him.
Yeah, 3 times as much as anybody else.
Right. And now who this was Henry Ford with Ford Motor Company.
Of course, of course.
Okay? And so when this all happened, he essentially created the 5-day work week. Okay.
Wow.
Everybody was working 7 days a week. So now that super contrarian, who would have ever come up with that with any data? Okay. He's like, hey, I've got this hunch that I think will work. Thought it through, and here it is. And so that's one of the times he saved Ford Motor Company way back when they were getting started. But that's, there's a whole intuition thing. There's no data behind to say that you need to do this or you can do this and it'll save your company.
That is so true. It's like, and thank you, Robin, for this. Ford was a visionary. But here's the thing I find really interesting about this. And Eric, this to me is part of the innovative thinker. Like, you're right. At that time, it was contrarian thinking. People work 7 days a week. They didn't make 3 times as much. And he wanted to motivate them and get them exactly where they wanted to, be part of the workforce that they were, and proud of what they were doing there, proud of who they were at this particular company. And I think a lot of that is missing right now. There are people that are kind of looking at work as something that I'm not going back there because of, this, that, or the other. They don't have a sense of pride or a sense of feeling of, yes, I have a life and I love my work. And that innovative thinking right now that I think is so pertinent is, how can you do something that is almost rebellious compared to what they're, don't pay them anymore. They won't come into work, or they're not giving their best. What is the rebellious step that you can take for someone to suddenly be invested, not just oh, I have to have a paycheck, but emotionally invested. And those hunches that are coming from you that are innovative, because I know what happens here. This is the dividing line, Eric, that you're talking about. As an entrepreneur, I'm either going to be afraid of what the economy is doing or excited about what the
Mhm.
economy is doing. And when I'm afraid of what the economy does, I kind of contract. I'm not
Mhm.
ready to go hire people, or
Right.
it is a huge thing to do the opposite and just go, let's give a little bit more. Let's go through this together and see what's going to happen. What can you tell the small business owner right now? Like, if there's a small business, I don't care what industry, just in this time, what is a small business owner? And the second thing I got to know, Eric, is if you're right now on the internet, it's everywhere. It's how
Mhm.
to buy a business, how to buy a business. Don't create a business, go buy a business.
Mhm.
And that's fine if you know how to buy a business.
Mhm.
If you don't know how to buy a business, you could get screwed bad.
Mhm.
And I want to talk about those two things. Like, what can a business owner do right now that would create maybe some morale and use your gut? And then the second thing is about how to buy a business if you're looking to spend money on a business.
Okay, so one of the biggest things that, in order for you to be that kind of like crazy thinker,
Mhm.
thinking outside the box, that's basically creative. Okay,
Mhm.
so in order to be creative, there needs to be a certain level of safety that you have to reach. I feel
Yeah.
safe in what I'm doing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
So when you get to that point, then you can start being creative. The people that are scared right now, and it's perfectly understandable. It's like, okay, so I can choose to be scared. I can choose to feel scared, or I can choose to feel like, hey, there's an opportunity here. Been so many businesses, and so many businesses have changed in how they approach their customer, and I think are a heck of a lot more um, grateful for those customers because of the pandemic. And those ones that really were really
Yes.
successful communicated with them, we're going to take care of you. We want to do this together. They
Mhm.
got they got to a point where it's a fight or flight kind of thing. And we've seen a lot of businesses close, but we've also seen a lot of businesses just start booming.
Explode. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. And so with that is, all right, I know I need to do something different. I can sit and cry in my milk, or guess what? Let me, I know I'm going to get through this.
Mhm.
I know I've got the ability to do this. There's a little bit of safety. Now, how creative can I be in order to get up and up and up through
Yes.
those things? So, creativity and safety, and that's, we were talking earlier about it. There's a lot of that around getting to that space where your brain can just take a breath. Because
Mhm.
if you get, there's so much media out there, there's so many things going on. The media things that you hear, once again, it's going in your subconscious, and your subconscious is parking that stuff, and
Mhm.
it can help create that, hey, I don't feel safe. Businesses are down, business is down, business is down, but guess what? On the other side of it's up. But as you know, the media, just to pick on them for a minute, the media wants to spin it because they need to sell stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
well, everybody likes bad news, everybody likes a car wreck, everybody likes, um, what is it,
Sensationalism.
sensationalized TV.
Mhm.
It's like, you want to peer into other people's stuff because it takes
Lives.
your stuff off. Yeah, it takes
Yeah.
stuff off of you. But the reality of the issue is, like, you know what? You could choose. You have a choice. You can choose to be like they want you to feel, or you can choose something different.
That's
So
right.
it's just a matter of what you want. And, that's one of the things. And you know, I was a meditation skeptic for a long time, but I'm a firm believer of it now because it gives me the opportunity to choose. And some people just don't think that they can, but you truly can. So
Yeah.
that's that's one of those things that safety and creativity are so key, and that's where a lot of entrepreneurs live, is a creativity. It's like, how crazy can this get? I mean, you've done it, Vickie. I mean,
Yeah,
you navigated the pandemic,
it's
and
so
launched a
interesting.
hugely successful book. So
Thank you. It's so interesting to talk about this because the meditation piece, I want to go back to that because I think that's important. So,
mhm,
what meditation has done for me is One of the most important things you can do as a person, but as an entrepreneur, as a creative, as somebody who wants to make a difference in the world, is to have reins on your imagination. And what do I mean by that? I mean, what meditation does is slow you down enough so that you can begin to command your imagination versus let your imagination run away with you.
Right.
And it is the runaway imagination that loves to talk the toxicity things that are all about, we're going down, we're going under, we can't get out, blah, blah, blah. It's that toxic mind. When you get to the point where you meditate and you command the creativity, instead of listening to it, you are asking it. I want you to help me create a solution. What am I going to do? How is it that I'm going to get through this? Go find me an answer. And that's when you can trigger the imagination. Without meditation, without that meditation to slow that piece of the mind down, you can't hear you. You think you're hearing you, but you're hearing your mind, and that's not you. You're not your mind. And I think that one point that you just made is the dividing line between why some companies boom or some people thrive during this time and some people don't, because there's the ability to, oh, look at this, boom. All right, you guys, I see you. MJ says, totally agree with you, Eric. Meditation is so essential to wellness and creativity. And that is, I think, one of the best ways through that we have right now to be able to solve problems, because the issues right now that we're having have never been here before. We haven't had these technological advances where now we're talking to AI. And right now we think AI is intelligent, but we have to be intelligent enough to figure out how to ask it a question so it answers what we want, or how to move it through. Or there's a lot of new to this. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Great to see you here. Nice to meet you, Eric. Yep, this guy's really great at that. And so as we're going through this conversation, what I think is potent about what you said, it's kind of like leveling up a level to be able to say, okay, so yes, there's data. Yes, there's information. Yes, your reports are going to come through, and you're going to have to look at them and put that down and go somewhere else to seek an answer. I mean, talk about having to show up, go somewhere else to seek an answer, go internally and ask yourself, how is it that I'm going to help my business explode? The key to what you just said about a runaway imagination or a runaway toxic thoughts, for every entrepreneur out there right now that is in uncertainty, you're trying to figure it out. You have to figure it out by understanding the difference between who you are and what your brain is, because we have those two things confused, and that can cause a lot of chaos. So let me ask you something. I mean, I know that there is meditation and there is things that you do in the morning, so you're probably calmer in the day. But let's just say right now, Eric, that you're a business owner and you suddenly get that call that makes you kind of panic inside, like, no, what? What? And what can they do in the moment to not react so much, but to flip it somehow and become more proactive? And I don't, it doesn't matter what emergency is. It could be the order's not here, or you have too much order, or your taxes are due, or whatever it is, and they're feeling stressed. What things can they do to come back to center and ask a different part of themselves?
So one of the things that, as you get going in a busy day, this is what I do. If I've got something that's like all of a sudden smacks me upside the head, which it does. I mean, we're business. This is, it's not smooth. It's a rough, it can be rough seas, but it can also be a lot of fun too. It's just a matter of how you choose to do that. One of the things that I do personally is just take a walk outside. Just literally like get up from your desk, walk away from your phone. Don't take any of that thing with you, and just take a break and walk outside. Have a coffee break.
Yes. Have a
Just
coffee break.
get away from all this crap,
Mm-hmm.
your darn phone, and go outside. What that does is it frees up your mind a little bit, because now you're not inundated with all this stuff coming at you, because that's one of the biggest things. The phone is the most addictive thing that's legal, so to speak. Coffee's not. All the other
I call it
vices,
junk food entertainment.
right? Yeah, exactly. Booze and all that kind of stuff. Not coffee, but booze is an illegal, so to speak, if you're young.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, that's your phone is the most addictive device you've got and you carry it around with you all the time. Oh, did somebody email me back? Oh yeah, look, they did. Oh yeah, did this person text me back? Yeah. When you get bored, you're like, hey, let me send out some messages. But just get away from this stuff for a minute and just clear your mind. Walk down to the end of the street and back. But that will give you the opportunity. That will give your brain a sense to slow down, because right now what you're doing is going into problem solve mode. Am I not right? You're going into, okay, how do I fix this? How do I fix this?
Yep.
The solution might be, if you take that break, you might find something that's even more creative than what you're initially coming up with.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I found. It's like, if something I got to change something in my business or somebody else's business that we're working on, it's like, all right, give me a minute to like create a solution for us, or at least talk about something that could be a good solution for it.
Mm-hmm. That calm is so important to be able to do that. It's interesting because nobody ever thinks about, maybe I should just remove myself from it first. I want to put this up. Robert says, it's like when you misplace something or go frantic trying to find it and you get frustrated. Then when you take a break and relax, it shows up.
Your car keys.
Yeah, your glasses that are on your head when you're, exactly. It's like, oh, yeah, thank you for that. So once I remove myself from the problem, the first thing I do is I start saying to myself, what am I telling myself? Because if I'm frantic and I'm reacting, I need to go from react to proact. I need to ask myself, what am I telling myself? And one of the things that I've caught myself saying in the past is, I don't know what to do. And that is the worst thing you can say, is that I don't know what to do, because your brain is going to comply, right? And it's going to go, okay, we don't know what to do.
Yeah, but it's a realization though too, Vickie. It's, guess what? I don't know what to do. Okay, so now what's the next step?
That's the thing.
Figure out what to do.
That's right.
So
that's the key right there. Once you acknowledge where you're at, then you can move forward, because now you can say, now I always say to myself when I'm, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this, or, oh, this is due when I have a deadline, and oh my gosh, I got to get this done. And when I say those things, sometimes, especially the word deadline, that to me is like the words that are the creativity crusher, is like, develop this under pressure. And I'm not very big on that. I don't really like that. And so what happens to me is I stop and I say, the first thing I say is, you got plenty of time and plenty of creativity. I start acknowledging the thing that I do have that'll solve the problem, or that, are, if I'm not sure, I'm like, don't worry, we'll figure it out along the way. We are smart enough to figure this out along the way. But what you want to do is start paying attention to perhaps the part of you that can solve problems, that can win. And that part, once it takes over, your imagination can start working with that. And I think it is kicking that on. And your imagination, I want to talk about this so clearly, Eric, because I think a lot of people think their imagination is their thinking. And imagination is not thinking. It's a type of openness that it's like a dance between the divine and you, where suddenly you're just there and an idea pops in your head. And the idea didn't come from your thinking. It just popped in your head. If it popped in your head, it wasn't because your mind said, what about doing this? It popped in your head. So I want to know, it's like for the person, I want to jump, because I want to really talk about those people who are buying a business. Because I will tell you this, I've looked at businesses where my gut has said, yes, go get it. And I'm so glad I didn't, because when I looked at the business and I did due diligence, I would have bought a lemon. And I would have had to really dig that out. There's a discerning piece for me when it comes to purchasing a business. And I want to go to what should people look out for. And hang on a second.
Yeah.
I just want to pop this up here. I have a framed printed post on my wall. What's next? It keeps me focused. I got that idea from the West Wing. Martin Sheen is president, always saying, what's next? Brilliant. Love that. Thank you.
Love that show. Remember that show. I'm old enough.
Yeah, still like it. So what I want to talk about is for those people who are, acquiring right now, they're acquiring businesses and et cetera. And since you are a mergers and acquisition specialist, that means you've probably looked over a few businesses in your lifetime and said, this is what you need to buy.
There's a lot that goes into that, but first and foremost, it's got to make sense in your brain. It's got to be like something that you really, whether it's, you're buying your first business or it's a strategic acquisition that fits into your group. And that's what a lot of companies are doing right now is they're finding strategic plays within what they're doing in order to bring more continuity to their fold, if you will. And so we're starting to see a lot of consolidation of businesses that are like, here's an opportunity because there's so many of them that are struggling right now. And here's a way out with some people that are doing very strategic things in order to bring businesses into their fold that end up being strategic partnerships. Because that's what we're seeing a lot of that right now.
Yeah.
But it's got to make sense. I mean, it's got to make sense down to the core. It's got to drive you. It's got to get you up in the morning, because if it doesn't get you up in the morning, there's no sense in even pursuing it. And what you were talking about, Vickie, earlier is that the intuition was probably, my guess is it could have been you weren't asking the right question of your intuition. And that's people will struggle with that too. And I had a conversation yesterday with some folks about that. I'm like, look, you've got to understand the questions to ask. And, you did the due diligence, which is great. That's one of the biggest things that people miss. It's like getting in there and actually like pouring through stuff and understanding. And as you're going, there's an excitement that goes. It's like, yes, we're going to buy a business.
Yes, that's the thing you got to look out for.
Right. Yeah, we're going to buy a business. Okay. It takes a long time to find something that really, really makes sense. And it's got to make sense on so many levels. It's got to make sense in your brain. It's got to make sense financially. It's got to make sense in your strategic. What are you doing? And this is one of the things that I do is I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that want to create legacy. So that business is going to give back for years and years and years to their families and their families' families and charities, that kind of thing. So I want to help people that are in the long game, not just to buy a business, just to buy a business to make more money. It's like, how do we do this so that this business outlives us, basically?
That I think is so important what you said, succession in that way of that business. I have a few friends, several friends actually, that have legacy businesses. I have one of my best friends has had a family health food store, and it's going on its third generation. And by the time that third generation has taken it over, it's debt free and established, and branding is done, and it's already got its clients and customers, and you can see the profitability. And I think that is some of the best inheritance you can ever receive is that right there. And I think legacy businesses right now are going to be also online businesses, because we are moving from the first generation of online entrepreneurs who are handing it over to their next of kin, so to speak, the next person who's going to be running that family business. And there's a lot of digital assets inside that they're inheriting that are just as powerful as a brick and mortar.
Absolutely.
And I think that being able to establish that as a family legacy, I think that was such a great point that you just made. Now,
go ahead.
I want to know what do you look for? I know that you said a business has to make sense. The business has to make sense. The first thing I look for when I look at the business is am I excited to do it? Because if I'm not, I'm passing it. I'm passing it off. Thank you for the offer. And I get pitched a lot. Nearly, I would say nearly every day, I get pitched at least 1 to 2 pitches a day from other people wanting me to be involved in something. And the first thing I look at is if they're pitching me for this is going to make us a lot of money, then I'm not interested.
Right.
I'm interested in money, but I'm already got my money. I'm not interested in that. I'm like, is it purposeful? Is it necessary? Does it solve a painful problem? There's some questions I go through, but the first and foremost thing I ask is, would I like doing this, talking about this, writing about this? If I'm not interested in that, it just is not going to go anywhere, in my opinion.
Right.
And what are the key things that you look for?
Well, that's the biggest thing right there is that, it's a very simple statement. It's got to make sense, but there's so many levels to that. It depends on where you want to go. What are your goals? Where are you trying to get to? And if it doesn't fall within that, and, sometimes it's like, oh, look, here's something new that can do this. But once again, what are your goals for 3, 5, 10, the rest of your life? Does this make sense? Because not only that, what you were talking about earlier, like you could, there's plenty of stuff out there that's a turnaround situation. I was talking with somebody yesterday. I'm like, okay, so how do we turn this business around for you? It's a solid, in this case, it was a solid 6-figure business. And, there's some family issues that went on and just kind of lost interest in it. But how do you turn this thing around? It's only this far.
Yeah.
From making money.
And that's a big deal.
Right. And so how does somebody, how do you market this to somebody else or show somebody else this? I'm like, look, we just got to go see if we can find you strategic partners that want to buy this. The owners burn out.
Yeah, and that happens. That happens a lot.
Right.
I got to tell you, one of the businesses that we had purchased, invested in, and did. Me and there were 3 couples, so there were 6 people on the project, and we bought a property and turned it into an ice cream store. I mean, we did the reconstruction, and one of the buildings on it was from the 1800s. It was a brothel, and we had to redo everything.
Oh my gosh,
and it was a really fun project. But all 3 couples had a business outside of the project we were working on. So we literally had no need for the profits inside the ice cream store. And one of the most important things I learned as an entrepreneur is because serving ice cream when you're, over 50 years old, it's not like serving ice cream when you're 20 and you have lots more muscle and you're, it's just, and you're on your feet all day after, it's just absolutely a different job. And I remember thinking how fun it was going to be. And we did such an amazing job. But one day when I was in there, I realized that we had made this business plan to expand out like, Ben and Jerry's. And we were thinking, we're so tired right now of standing up. And we had to flip the store. We did flip it. But one of the things I learned about that, probably the best business lesson ever, was that because we didn't need the profits, we funded everything. I mean, we funded kids programs. We had every month we sat down and we were like, what are we going to do with these profits? Who's going to receive them? Who's going to get them? Because it was just such a great thing. And I always knew there was money on the back end because when we flipped the store, we obviously flipped it for more than, because we created the business and it was profitable. But I think in the things that I did not count, which is, was how hard it was going to be. Right. I mean, you're up on your feet all day and you're not 20. And you think at 20, when you're working at the local Dairy Queen or Baskin Robbins, this is easy. I can be on my feet and serve ice cream all day. And then, and then suddenly you're not thinking about that. But I thought about how fun that would be. And I got to the point where the second thing I look at is a business going to have traction and how long can it have traction for? Right. The third thing I look at is if I make this profitable really quick, can I flip the business and make my money on the back end, because that's what I've done several times in my life when I look at that particular piece of traction. So when I'm adding those things in there, the key thing I forgot to tell everyone is you have to look at your effort and labor, because we didn't hire anybody because we didn't want the labor expenses or anything else. If you don't get yourself trapped in something that is really overly physical for you, or overly like, oh my God, I can't stand being in one place, because what I also found out from this particular thing was I like my freedom. If Eric says to me, Vickie, let's go out to lunch, and I'm like, yeah, let's go out to lunch, I want to be able to get up from where I am and go to lunch and hang out with you and come back, and my work is there, and I'll just continue on.
Right.
So,
I mean, you're making perfectly valid points all the way through that. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it's like the lifestyle.
Yeah. Does it make sense in your lifestyle? Is this something you want to do? Is this something you're going to be passionate about? Is this an opportunity for you to give back? And you talked about, well, we looked at flipping it. Is that you need to go into that right away to say, okay, if this doesn't strategically fit in here, what's the purpose of the business? Okay, well, maybe in 6 months we can flip this thing and make $150,000 or $1 million, whatever the heck, whatever that scale number is.
Yeah,
you got to understand where you want to go with this thing, and what's like you said, it's the labor behind it.
Yeah, and I think, Eric, what you just said. What you said is so important, because what we take a look at first, if you're inexperienced, you think, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money. That's the first thing you look at. I know I did. You're going to make a whole bunch of money. But when you start looking at lifestyle and you start, I just want to get to the point where we are helping people think about what it is that you're going to have to deal with on a daily basis before that whole bunch of money comes in. You mentioned something earlier that I thought was super important and super key. You stated where you were talking about it. How long is it going to take you to make this more profitable? If I look at this business and maybe it's making 100,000 a year, and I think, well, I can make this $1 million a year. What's the plan for that? And how is that going to feel in your lifestyle? Maybe you can make it $1 million a year, but should you take that lifestyle change and, be on it and saying, okay, I'm going to pursue this. This is where I want to go. At what point does the lifestyle piece of it, I want to be so clear about this, because I think it's for me, the number one mistake I've made. And I think tons of entrepreneurs make this mistake, where they're looking at a business as a cash cow and not the effort they're going to have to take, the time and everything else to get that cash cow where it needs to be to do what they need to do. And they get pie in the sky, and it's going to be this way, and it's going to be successful, and it's so grandiose in your mind. There's no practicality to it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's very difficult. And this is where meditation really helps. It's like, all right, so let's stop for a second and see what this really looks like for us. You're in the ice cream business. One of the first things I thought to myself was like, okay, if you run out of power, you're kind of screwed.
Yep.
And I was helping another company do some work. I'm like, they had no redundancy in their supply chain. I'm look, do we have a backup generator here? It's like, no, why? I said, well, if you run out of power,
we did. We had 2 generators.
It could be 2 days before you've got power. All of a sudden, you can't send orders out. You can't do anything.
And your product goes.
Right, and in your case, your product spoils and it's done.
Yeah,
you can't get it back because you don't want nobody wants refrozen ice cream. I mean, I don't.
That's true.
But it's just one of those things, and you got to think strategically and tactically through the business. That you think about those things. It's like, what happens if, ice cream store right now just coming through the pandemic. Guess what? Wouldn't be a great time to have an ice cream store because nobody's going out.
That's true. Nobody can go out to have an ice cream store.
Right.
Yeah, you got to look at that, don't you?
And so what's the economy doing? Once again, does this make sense? I mean, I know it's a statement, but it's got to fall into lifestyle, what your effort you want to put into it. redundancies. How can I create redundancies in there if I don't want to put the effort in it? What's that going to cost me? There's so many things. And, truly when you look at businesses, you don't necessarily find the best one the first time you look at it.
It's true.
I mean, seriously. I mean,
I
you think
know.
about all these, the bigger companies, they're strategically looking at, your Fortune 500s are strategically looking at businesses they want to acquire to bring into the fold. Pepsi owns a whole bunch of businesses that are, standalone businesses,
Juices.
but they're strategic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're into the consumable beverage space.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're looking for businesses. I think Pepsi still owns KFC, if I remember right. I don't know. I can't remember, but they still own it. But, it's that thing, but it's a strategic play for them.
Yeah.
And that's, when we start getting into this middle market, it's becoming more and more strategic play. It's like strategic partner. How can you help me do this?
Yeah.
Like, I've got a friend that she has a staffing company. And we're looking for, she got 2 or 3 staffing companies that she owns. I think she has 3 now. And what we're looking for is a digital media agency to kind of push into that a little bit as well, so that they can do all the digital media stuff. So there's a strategic play there.
Mm-hmm.
Because then once you have that agency inside of it, you're not outsourcing all that stuff.
Yeah.
It can live by itself, but it's also, you can do all the creative inside of it for the 3 different businesses. So there's a ways of playing strategically in that space
beautiful.
as well. But you've got to understand, number one, what your skills are, how much effort you want to put into this. Does it really fit in your lifestyle? What do you really want to do? What's the purpose of having the business?
Yeah.
Like you said, we're gonna, we'll flip it. Okay. There's that too. That's like houses, real estate.
That's exactly how I built my fortune. I flip businesses like people flip houses. But the skill set is I can find the hole in the boat, and how I evaluate whether something has traction and looking at it and putting out. I want to be able to flip the business in no later than 24 months. 24 months from the time of acquisition till I flip it. That's when it's 24 months.
So the first time you did this, did you have a clue what you were doing? Absolutely not.
Not at all.
Right.
That's why I'm talking about it with you, because the first thing I'm going through, the first mistakes I made, first mistake was I'm going to make a lot of money. And I can turn this place down faster. I didn't look at economics. I didn't look at traction. I did look at books. I knew how to look and see if it was profitable. By far, it looked so much better on paper than it was in real life.
And guess what? It's going to.
Yeah, it always is. It always is. And I didn't use my gut, but I thought I did. There's a difference between intuition and your mind being excited about all the money you're going to make. And I didn't know how to slow down. I was, and this person, it was like the person selling me the business was like a used car salesman. It's got this and it's got that. And I was like, yay. And I remember I didn't get to flip it. I took a loss on that. I took a loss. And then there was a point where I followed my gut to the T. I mean, to the T. I followed it. The business exploded. I made a fortune and I was overworking. It exploded with customers and things. And there were a few things I didn't have in play in the back end, like more people. And there are 2 mistakes I think people make in business. And one is in growth. Everybody plans for slow to moderate growth. They never plan for what if we get out there and this thing explodes. And when it gets out there and explodes, your work hours, you think you work hard when it's slow. No, when it blows up, you are working every second of the day, getting that and keeping it going and all your customers. That's what happened. I made a second mistake by not planning that and scaling it, but it ended up with a good result. But it was very bad for my health.
Let me back up into that a little bit. So if you had systems and processes in place to get you to allow for that scale, even if it's a small scale. And this is one of the things I work with a lot of companies on, is like, all right, so where are your redundancies? What's, if you need to add another customer service person, how long does it take to get that person up to speed?
Yes.
Okay. If you need another salesperson, how long does it take to get that person up to speed? Well, if you've got a process behind it, it's like, here, go do this, and then come with me with questions. And this is one of the things that I work with a lot of people. It's like, I was talking to a potential new client yesterday about this. I'm like, okay, we're going to make these systems and processes, because she's really, really close to, like, all of a sudden this thing just launching to the moon, because it's something that everybody needs. And I'm like, look, I can see in a year that your business is going to 3 or 4x, and that's probably a conservative number.
Yeah.
But we've got to build the foundation, and that's the key, is put this foundation for growth. And so many people miss that. Like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. And it's very much like you. I hear this story a lot. It's like, all of a sudden it got away from me. I'm working 1,000,000 hours. I'm like, okay, so where's the redundancy back? It's like supply chain. Where's your redundancy in your supply chain? There's so many businesses out there right now, if their supply chain suffering because of the fact that they can't get product. Where's your duplicate supply chain? And that's those are the kind of the two things, is people and supply of product. Those are the two things that can really mess up a business quickly.
I want to let you know, Eric, that right now I can hear Robin, who does all our systems stuff and is wicked detailed and wicked good. She's like, preach it, Eric, preach it, because I give her a lot of crap. Like, can't we just do this? No, it has got to be built from here. We have to have systems in place. And she's like the most anal systems person. If somebody comes in here and then they do this, how are we going to train them to do this? And for that boom, I know she's sitting there feeling vindicated in the background. Don't think I don't see that. I know it's there.
One of the things that I tell a lot of my friends, because everybody becomes a friend once we start working together, is, and I'll give you this little nugget. If you can do what we're doing here, is just videotape what you're doing. Literally, the best way to make an SOP is actually not being the person writing it. You need to teach it to somebody else.
Oh, so you are making her sound really good right now. This is not good for my ego.
She's keeping your ass out of trouble. That's what
she really is. And she's going to get off this. And man, that Eric was so good today. I'm telling you, but that she does.
But it's true.
She's like, we make a SOP, we make a video. There's a training for everything. This is how you do it.
Right.
We are ready for that kaboom.
Right.
Because the kaboom will equally kill you as much as no kaboom will kill you.
And my point was, think about how much more you could have done if you had that system in place.
Yes, we could have 10x'd.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's like people don't think about it, because it's like, oh, well, we're just doing this, and we're a solid little 6-figure, early 7-figure business. I'm like, where's your systems? And they're like, well, we don't have any. I'm like, okay, let's make them right now. Because if you want to go from 7 to 8 figures and 8 to 9 figures, holy smokes, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, there it is. So I want to talk about this, because I think this is part of the place where people don't think about when they have a business. They get to the point where they just want to get in, run it, and start. And they're like, my product is so great. This, we'll figure it out on the way. You want to figure this out right up front. I mean, because when the business explodes, there's going to be what I call, their growth spurts, just like kids. They grow up and you have to replace all their clothes, and then they stay there, and then they grow. That's the business. It's like blip, stasis, blip, stasis, blip. And every time that blip happens, you are either have things in place, you are either recovering from the blip that just happened. Like we just had a pretty big explosion with our company, which I'm super excited about. And my business partner and I, we knew this thing was coming, but at the end of that blip, it's like you're tired and you have bags under your eyes and you're excited, you're alive, you still love what you're doing, and you know that you have these systems in place. So when the blip happens, you're not killing yourself. or killing your business for that matter. I think this is such an important thing to talk about because there are skill sets in a business. It's just like learning to cook. When you learn to cook, you can suddenly cook whatever you want and you're never hungry again because you always know how to take care of yourself. It's the same with a business. If you learn how to run a business, it only takes once. You learn how to do it, you can run any business. So what if you want to sell your business right now? Like right now, what are the things that people can look for if they're trying to sell their business and not, make a fool of someone like, what sucker will buy my business? Let's talk about a legitimate business sale. What are the things that those who want to sell their business can do?
Yeah, the biggest thing is make sure, the first thing that somebody's going to ask you is, let me see a P&L and a balance sheet. That's the first thing. And so
You hope they ask that.
Well,
Or maybe you
okay,
don't.
they should
Who
ask that
knows?
if they're not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You should ask for that
Right.
first.
Because that gives you an idea of the health of the business. Okay. And what it's done, what's done before, what it could potentially do. So at least you get that. And the other thing you kind of want to understand is like, why do you want to sell it? What's the purpose of selling this? Are you burned out, worn out, which is typically a lot of the things that I hear.
A lot of it. That's the number one thing.
I'm done.
Yep.
And I get it. And, when you get to that sales point, and one of the things that I work with people is like, okay, so you've owned this business, your lifestyle is going to change now because you don't own this, no matter what you do. So how do you plan for that lifestyle change? Because more than likely you've had cars associated with that, you've traveled. Now all that stuff you can't put, you can't attribute a lot of that to your business. So your lifestyle that way is going to change a little bit. So what does that look like? And so I've got a number of people that help me with that. What's the transition look like after that? And then it's really about, telling the story of your business, why it was important to you. What can you do with this business? What's the potential for this business? And being able to tell a great story. That's what it really boils down to, is when you get in it ready, is have somebody there that helps tell your story around the business and how it can impact people, how it can create, what we were talking about earlier, how it can create legacy for the new buyer.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to come in that's going to be fired up and ready to go. And we're making the assumption that, I'm burned out. Okay. So we want to find somebody, and typically the best way to market a lot of these businesses now is to find strategic players. Who's strategic in your world that would want to do this? So if you're an Amazon seller, you want to find somebody else that's in that same space, that's got a product that, and we'll just pick this just for ease of talking about it, something that's a complementary product to you. If you sell t-shirts, maybe it's a footwear company that could be a potential buyer, because now they can put two of these things together and create bigger average order value, all of those things. So it's, there's a lot of ways that this can happen, but you just got to be around, telling the story of your business and being able to help people understand what it is, how it works, how it can fit into your lifestyle. If it's something you have daily running it, or if you got somebody in the backside that can run it for you, you can hire somebody as an operations person that takes care of the whole thing, or a couple, there's all kinds of businesses that are out there that they don't need a lot of hand holding, but you also got to understand that you've got to be able to make sure that you understand it and can do all the stuff, because what if that person leaves?
Yeah, that's right.
If you've got an operations person and they're your single person that's running your business for you, what happens if that person leaves? What happens if that person gets sick? What happens if that person gets God forbid, hit by a car?
But that's the thing. I got to tell you, I had this is so important. I had a business partner, Rick, and we made this whole product. We were 4 days before launch, and he died. 4 days before launch. I had $46,000 invested into the project, and he was gone. And I remember having to put the business in neutral. Yes. This is the thing right here. Key man insurance will help. That's right. That's right. And I do that now with every single business because of that incident right there. I had to put the business in neutral. Of course, I was kind of distraught, and it was 4 days before launching. And I was so thankful that we hadn't launched, and then suddenly he died. But, it happens.
Right.
Eric, what is it? If somebody says, I got to talk to this dude, I want to consult with this dude, I have a, how can they be in connection with you? How can they, talk to you or work with you?
You can reach out to me at ericsamdahl.com.
Robin, would you put that could you put it down below, put Eric's information and say the address again?
ERIC at ericsamdahl.com.
ericsamdahl.com. Imagine that.
No, right. Instagram is fine too. That's, kind of the two ways that I've got right now for people to really kind of get a hold of me. They're easy, and because of this whole Clubhouse thing, I don't know. You're not on Clubhouse, are you?
I have been. I am. I've spoken on Clubhouse in, some people's. Thank you for that. And some people's things. But yes. Oh, look at this. Ross Arnston, one of my favorite entrepreneurs on the planet. Nice to see
Ross.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Some great conversation today. Thank you, my friend. Here
you
is
talk about your book, by the way. Or actually, no, wait.
Yeah.
Both of your books.
I do have 2 books coming out.
Ooh. And what is it tomorrow? Is that what
Yeah, tomorrow.
So
It's the first time. It's the first time ever in my entire life that I have released 2 books at once. I don't know if I'll ever do it again because, oh my gosh, it has been the most work that I think I've ever done. But I feel really alive and really excited about it.
How do we get them? Come on, give us the.
Well, tomorrow I'm doing something I've never done before. This is my 40th and my 41st book. So,
dear Lord, I'm still on one. I'm still working on mine, for crying out loud.
I know, but yours is coming out soon.
41? What the hell?
I
Good
know.
for you.
It's
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, this is it right here. Woohoo! No sleep at the Helm household for the next several days. Yep. So what happens is I'm doing something very different. I am not putting the books on Amazon at first. You're only going to be able to get them through the links that we're going to be putting out tomorrow. And we have exceptional books. One of my friends just had a talk with me. And, there are some friends where you can mentor each other. And Wendy, thank you very much. She was like, okay, this book needs to go out. And it was written, It's a Secret Joy of You. It's about awakening your spiritual gifts, your inner genius, so that you can live a life you love. And then the next book that's coming out is all about how to go, because I have been asked this over and over again. So it's how to go from the 6-figure coach to the 7-figure mentor. And really it's about how to transform lives for a living, because that's what I do right now. We transform lives for a living. And that's coming out tomorrow. And I got to tell you, I'm very excited. I've never done this before. It's something very new. And I just feel like I'll see how things happen. I'm going to see how it all goes. And then, of course, after a bit, it will be available. That is the truth. The few that I've read are exceptional. You are so nice to me. Thank you very much. I'll give you that $10 later.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but thank you for saying that. And your book is going to be due out very shortly as well. And I cannot wait to read it, because you are the new breed of entrepreneur, the new breed of consultant. This is the way the world is going and making a difference. Thank you, MJ. I see that. I see your love. So for them, I want to go back over to Eric's web address, so that you can look at what he does, see what he can do for you. Great connection. I think Ross and Eric should meet each other, because, well, you should. Absolutely. And then also looking at working with Eric, you can connect with him at ericsamdahl.com. If you're driving right now, if you're listening on Pandora or iHeartRadio, and you're thinking, I got to get a hold of this dude, just relax. It's in the show notes. You can get a hold of him and, drive safe, be safe, and get where you're going. And then just pull up the Coffee Break Show, and inside the show notes, you will find him We also have his LinkedIn address. You can hunt him down on LinkedIn as well, and Instagram, so that he can be there. Eric, it has been a joy talking with you today. I love talking to you always, but your candid, truthful, authentic answers today to some of the business issues that many people are going to be going through has been absolutely enlightening and a total joy to talk with you.
This has been one of the most fun interviews I've done in a long time. So I appreciate, I love this kind of just free flowing conversation, because there's so many great things to talk about. And, we've covered some really great ground today. And I'm just, I'm honored to be, part of your crew, and now in your orbit a little bit here. And I'm just grateful that we've had the, chance to like sit around and just have a fun conversation around business. Business is a lot of fun. People don't know.
It is wicked fun.
It's cool and fun.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't do it if it wasn't. I mean, really.
Oh, I know I wouldn't. I only do the cool things.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you guys. That has been the Coffee Break Show, and there's only one thing left to do, and I know you guys know. It's time to listen to the music. All right. See you later.